It's currently 12 4 1929. And I was just relating my thought for some reason on the laws of attraction in a sense. Now, when you, especially the people who don't believe in religion, when you see, when you point out prophecies that you would say would happen because of laws of attraction and somebody being on the wrong side, and because things don't happen as the prophet said, I think it was Christ Emmanuel, that because the sins for the because the judgment for the sins doesn't occur rapidly, they increase the sin, thinking it's a joke. Now that they're starting to believe throughout the Old Testament that a lot of the things in the Old Testament, even if they are make believe, show as a sign of laws of attraction, and how the multiverse, like I said, the human mind, like when somebody does something wrong, especially a criminal or whatever, but if somebody does something wrong, let's say somebody messes up somebody, gives somebody a false record, and a person is still dealing with that false record 10, 20 years later, and it's holding them back from getting all these jobs. And then when they see that person, even though they may have forgiven them, they may not ever be cool with them ever again. And that person would get mad somewhere in their crazy, deranged, retarded mind and be like, that person is still mad about something that happened 20 years ago. Well, if that person is still, like I said, see, this is where time of the gods and the source differ from that of humans. Time is what you use to rationalize slavery reality. Minutes, hours, years, months. On God's realm, it's moments. A moment can last for a second, or it can stretch for decades. If that person's still living in the moment because you're living on the human mindset that it's been 20 years, that moment has been expanded for 20 years and may continue to grow even longer. So just because you lack the understanding on how time or the perception of time actually works doesn't mean that person's wrong for not wanting to mess with you ever again. But I say that to say this. When you go back and look at even, well, you can say Genesis, the Torah, Genesis through Exodus, you see, yeah, exactly. Let's start off with Genesis through Exodus. So, no, just Genesis alone. So, as it says, in the days of Noah, so from Adam and Eve till Noah. So, you said you have, what it was, Chava, and was the first wife he had, not Diana, what was her name? Lilith. So it first was Adam and Lilith, then Adam and Chava, then Adam and Eve. Lilith was the one that married the demon, and the god, son of the gods, and made god babies and whatever. The fallen in a sense. But from that point to Noah, look from Adam and Eve's children, Cain and Abel. Look at that long from that act of, defiance from Adam and Eve, but from that real act of craziness or murder to Noah's time, that was a couple hundred, if not a couple thousands of years. And the gods had to intervene and to bring upon the flood. But let's say multiverse time. The actions that you create your reality. So let's go on from Exodus to Judges, or matter of fact, from Exodus to the end of Nega-Suluman's reign, which is the beginning of his son Rehoboam. So coming out of Mitzrayim, from the point within the 40 days was turned into 40 nights. The Israelites was backbiting, doing all types of negative acts, started worshiping idols. In a 40-day period, it kept being forgiven. So then when they go and finally they it's like how humans are. When as they were going toward the land of promise, they were on their best behavior. Then it even says when Moses died, Joshua took over. Then when Joshua died, the third and fourth generation that did not witness the acts of the gods didn't have any memory of the miraculous, the what's it called, the grace that was shown upon them and the guidance against the otherworldly beings, how they helped them to fight off the world. So they went back and they started doing, as it says, they kept doing the book of Judges. Yeah, that's where it is, Judges. So exactly, that's where Judges start off. After Joshua dies, and the children, the third and fourth generation that did not see the hand of gods or the gods doing the work for them, started going astray. And it says one judge would come, deliver them, they would live righteously for 40 years, fall down again, do evil. And when you see it, it says they did more evil than previously. So a judge come 80 years, judge come 20 years. They do good, chill for 80 years, 20 years, 40 years. But then when they go back to doing wickedly, it's like worse than before. So then you do all these evil acts, and then you got Suleiman that pretty much was them and all together. Lust, idolatry, his father murdered the man so all these negative acts added up. And then what does it say? I will rip away the kingdom from you, only one shall remain, and they were carried off to Babylon. So that's as it says, let Sodom and Gomorrah be an example for anybody that follows. That's many upon many of generations. That's at least thousands of years, like 2,000 to 3,000 of years, from the time coming out of Mitzrayim to the end of Suleiman's reign. That's thousands of years. I'm gonna even argue it 1,000 years. Let's say that. So that was the manifestation of many generations of evil. And as it says, they kept laughing when the prophets would come. Jeremiah, Isaiah, the judges. Because I'm trying to see who was before Jeremiah. Jeremiah predicted prophecy, but there was many before. Then you go to the book of Enoch or whatever. Who was in the time? I forgot who. Somebody was in the time of Jeremiah too. I think it was Zechariah. Yeah, then Zechariah. So all these different prophets were warning they turned away from the evil. Yeah, I think Zechariah, Zephaniah, Isaiah. They kept warning all these generations, and they kept scoffing because they didn't see it immediately happen. But slowly over time, they started seeing a change in their behavior and their condition till finally it came to pass. So that's my revelation for how the multiverse operates on its own time. It's like I said in my other video, just because you think you served your time, if that moment hasn't closed and still open, you're not able to say when it's over until it's over, till that moment is done. It could be the rest of that person's life. A moment lasts for, and you can stretch it. That's like the teachings. You can stretch a moment for infinity. Even though the days, what you would call days, will be going on, years will be going on, that moment can stretch on for infinity. This is the God side of the brain. This is understanding the multiverse in the way Yahushua Christ and the masters of the initiated understand it. You can't comprehend because you're still on human mindset. Like I said, when you're going by hours, time, and date, it doesn't matter. It's the moments. That's why it says in who was it? I forgot who it was. Oh, I think it could have been Habakkuk. Gather yourselves together, O undesirable nation, before the moment passes. Not the time, before the moment passes. The moment of revolution. So that's my revelation for time and how things manifest, and it could take generations upon generations. But don't think that, as Yahushua said, that the wicked will go unpunished. But liberation.